Dirty Three. Dirty fucking three! Dirty fucking three!
Well, Mick and Jim have been playing together for probably 20 years, I guess. Vanderbilt Stinger, and I think Vanderbilt Stinger was the first band they played in together, and Jim and I used to play together in a bunch of bands before we started Dirty Three, but literally a few months before we started Dirty Three. We had a band with Kim Salmon, we had a band with Charlie Marshall, we played in the Black Eyed Susans together, and what else? It's all I can remember at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the Dirty Three started a few months after all those groups started playing as well. And Mick and Jim had been in America with Vanderbilt Stinger, touring around, playing concerts and living in New York. And they came back to Australia. I was playing with Jim, he came back a bit earlier, and then Mick arrived back in Australia, and I had a friend who bought a bar, and he wanted to have live music rather than CDs being played in the background. And Mick gave me I said to Jim, look, you know, I've been offered this show, let's go down and play something, you know, and then he goes, let's ask Mick if he wants to come down too. And so Mick said, yeah, sure, I'll come down. It was like 50 bucks Australian or something. And we got in my kitchen, and Mick gave me this cassette of these fantastic songs that he was playing on the guitar. Really different to, I'd been a fan of theirs, Vanderbilt Stingers, and also Fungus Brains, the bands Mick was playing in. And so I knew him from around the live scene. You know, I was always going to see bands when I moved to Melbourne, and I heard this stuff that he had, and it was really different to anything I'd ever heard him do. All this beautiful, very different. And we sat in my kitchen and we worked out 5 songs. I had a couple ideas, and Mick had a few ideas, and we worked out half a dozen songs and went down and played them. That's pretty much when we started 11 years ago. I think we've continued in the only actual philosophy that we ever had, or the only rules for the game, for the band, was that when we thought we were making music that was rubbish, we'd stop. And so we've always just continued to make music, and always kind of, I guess, kept an eye on it. If we did feel like any of us felt like it wasn't going anywhere, or that we were sick of it, you know, that we'd stop. And I kind of feel like I know we have changed our approach to things. We've started looking further for things. I feel like our records are documentaries of how we're playing at that particular point in time, and I feel they show some kind of development. You know, on each record, we're trying to do different things, both individually and being three people who write music together. But I feel like the essence of the group is still very much the same. It doesn't feel like we've moved from that at all. Mm-hmm. But certainly we've tried to bring new things into it, and tried to kind of bring something else to the group. I think with all the things that we do outside of the group, and also just bring in things to try and keep the group alive. Mm-hmm. You know?
This is for all our friends here tonight who want to get the fuck out of wherever they are. And unfortunately, you decide to do it about 5 years too fucking late. This is a song about getting your partner's credit card, going and renting the best car that they will give you, filling it with gas, which seems to be getting cheaper at the moment. Packing a couple of sandwiches. Why? It's horrible. Filling it with some sandwiches and a blanket and maybe a little sleeping bag you got given for Christmas when you were 12 and you kept it. Getting in the car and driving like your fucking life depended on it. West, go west. And you keep driving and you keep driving until it runs out of gasoline. Then you leave the radio on. So when the coppers fucking find the car, the battery is stone cold dead. And you've got all your water and you take it and your blanket and your little sleeping bag and you keep walking west until you fall in a heap. And that is exactly where you want to be. This is a song called 1,000 fucking miles.
how did it come about that you're now playing with Zak Sally? I mean, you've known him for a while. You've toured with him, in various other different settings and stuff like that.
Yes,
and now
we toured with him with Low.
Yep.
About 5 years ago, I guess, and that's where we became friends. And then we recorded in the Fish Tank series together on a farm outside of Amsterdam. And I guess we've kept in touch with him over the years, and Alan and Mim, and it's a kind of bit of a occupational hazard when you're out there in the wilds of rock and roll. You come across people, and we cross paths quite a lot. And Mick did quite a lot of concerts opening for them, playing solo on his guitar, and Zak, with this last record we made, Mick played some bass, doubled up his guitar parts, and when we went about doing the tour of this record, we thought it'd be good to have some bass, and Zak was the first person we thought of, because when we played with him, he did play with us one time in Philadelphia, and it felt like when we did that EP as well, it felt like he was really sympathetic. His style of playing with what we were doing, and fortunately for us, he agreed to do it, because we did have another bass player in Australia, Martin Casey, played with us from the Bad Seeds. He filled in there, but it's been really good. Great playing with Zak.
Tough coordinating things with you living in Paris and them living in Australia, and Zak being from here? I mean, was that tough to sort of like coordinate rehearsals? And
to rehearse here wasn't so hard, but for us to do anything these days, it's quite a organisational nightmare. I have a family as well. I have a family with two little boys. I play with the Bad Seeds and I play with the Dirty Three, and Jim plays with Smog, and Mick does his solo thing and plays with Will Oldham from here and there and time to time, and Jim as well, and we were all kind of quite busy, and I think we all also wanted to have a life outside of this. It was our life for about, really, I guess, the first 6 years of it was just 11 months of the year non-stop, and that you pay a price for that sort of lifestyle and commitment. And I think we all wanted to have a life outside of it. And it's probably the best thing about the band at the moment, that we live in different places. It's really great because when we get together, we have to work it out and we have to really feel the desire for it. And we don't take it for granted. You know, it's really not a phone call and we say, I'll meet you down the studio tonight and we'll run through some stuff. It just doesn't work like that. And so it's frustrating, and it's also, I think, really good, you know. And organising this tour, Jim, I mean, we're pretty kind of independent still these days, you know. And Jim did a lot of work coordinating the stuff for this tour. We were in Australia before this, and we arrived a bit early in America to rehearse with Zak in Chicago a week ago. So, I mean, you know, I guess, I mean, we're not young, we're not kids anymore, you know. And when we started this band, we weren't kids, you know. I'm 38 now, and Mick and Jim are in their 40s. And when we started, we weren't young kids either. And I guess, you know, I mean, we've continued to do it because there's a real love for this group, and when we play together, and love comes at a cost.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of, you know, most things that are worth anything, they come at some sacrifice. You know, and it's obvious in even what we have to do, you know, to get it together, you know, it's nothing compared to what we get back from it. Still, so I don't see it. You know, if you want something to happen, you find a way around it. You know, don't you? Yeah. Days I try to be home at least half of the time more. I mean, you know, if I'm never out touring 6 months of the year. I live in Paris, I work a lot in Europe, I work a lot in London. I go over there, I can come back, I can go off and do a show and come back. When I do a tour, I try not to do anything longer than 3 weeks. This one is longer in America because there was no way of making the West Coast and the East Coast meet up without taking an aeroplane and having a enormous cost and stuff like that. So, no, I mean, these days I to be quite honest, I don't like being on the road. I don't have any fascination for it at all. I had a real enough of it. I love playing the concerts, but what goes on in between that, there's only so many ways you can entertain yourself, and then it's just like, right,
sit in the van and
drive
it through Waffle Houses.
Well,
and
yeah, so if I didn't love playing the shows, we wouldn't do it. It's kind of there's no desire at all to get inside one of those horrible vans again, and sit there and no, you're not going to get out for 8 hours, and but I mean, these days I physically couldn't keep up with doing a year of playing concerts. And I find now it doesn't get me in a very great headspace, the whole thing. So I kind of like to, when I get away, go home, and I still work. I write music. I still go off and play and whatever. But I try to kind of make some distinction between my family life and what I do. What I do outside of it. I guess what I'm saying is my objective is to spend as much time at home as I can, and certainly that it's weighted at being there. I don't want to take my kids on the road. They're too young. Churches a lot when I'm out on the road. I go to lots of museums, and I try to do things like that. I enjoy doing that, and in America it's generally just driving all the time, so it's kind of hard to, you don't have any days off, and it's hard to squeeze anything in there, but
It's a song about me and Mick Turner and Jim White going through an airport known as Freedom, and we're like kind of walking along, and Mick Turner goes, "There's James Brown," and I go, "What? Mick, what did you eat that I didn't eat this morning?" And he goes, "No, there's James Brown, and as I stand before you, I testify, there was James fucking Brown walking past me and Mick Turner." And a lightning bolt hit me. And I realized, ladies and gentlemen, that I was not funky. I realized that what I really did suspect, and I realized that we, in fact, were not a funk band. Because, man, that guy really has his trip happening. This one goes out to James Brown's suit. Because I have never seen anyone wear a suit that looked like that. Good does not even come close to describing it. This is for James Brown. Good night. God bless you all. And remember, remember, if fucking James Brown sits up there next to Zeus and Apollo and all those other gods, then Malcolm Young's sitting right up there playing fucking rhythm guitar, just shooting lightning bolts down there, the planet Earth. Because Malcolm Young brings the rain. Good night. God bless you all. This is called She Has No Strings, baby.
I still like spending, it's, after 11, I mean, it's the longest relationship I've ever had with other people. I mean, I don't see anyone I went to school with. Occasionally I might, I haven't had a relationship. I've been with my wife 6 years now. But Mick and Jim and Mick have been together for years, and it's 11 years. So those things are very hard, I find, in normal life to keep together. I find it very hard to maintain those sorts of things. I'm not very good at that sort of thing, you have to, I find it really difficult to keep them up, beyond a certain point with an intensity. And I realise it's something really quite special about this one. We've been through things together, we've seen each other at our best and worst, and we've loved each other and lost each other, along the way. You don't kind of think that stuff is going to happen when you start getting a band together, you don't think about that. and it just seems to be human nature, you know, that these things go along. But I'm really happy that we still enjoy playing together, and it's something I still don't take for granted.